Oh my God.
The dust storm came without warning. Thomas Miller was riding alone through the desert when the sky turned brown. One moment, he could see the road clearly. The next moment, everything was dust and darkness. The wind was so strong it pushed his horse backward. Sand got into his eyes, his nose, his mouth. He could not breathe. He could not see. Thomas was a young rancher, just 23 years old. He was not experienced enough to know what to do in a dust storm. His hands pulled hard on the reins, and his horse panicked. The animal reared up on its back legs, and Thomas fell hard onto the ground. When he woke up, everything was quiet. The dust storm had passed. The sun was setting. Thomas was lying on his back, looking up at an orange sky. His whole body hurt. His leg was twisted under him in a strange way. When he tried to move it, pain shot through his body so bad that he almost cried out. His horse was gone. The animal had run away during the storm, which was normal. Horses do that when they are scared. Thomas was not angry at his horse. The pain was sharp and constant, like a knife cutting through his muscles. He looked around. The desert was empty. Nothing lived here. Nothing grew here. It was just sand and stones and emptiness. He has at least 5 miles from the nearest town. No one knew where he was. No one would come looking for him. He could die here, and nobody would ever know. Thomas sat down and waited for death. He did not wait long. As the sun was disappearing behind the mountains, Thomas heard something. It was a sound he knew very well, the sound of a horse running. But this horse was not running away from the storm. This horse was running toward Thomas. It was running toward him on purpose. Thomas looked up, and his heart almost stopped. It was his horse, but it was not alone. The horse, a brown animal named Clay, was carrying another horse with it. No, that was not right. The horse was carrying a rider, and that rider was not moving. The rider was lying across Clay's back like a dead body, with one arm hanging down, with blood on his clothes. Thomas's horse skidded to a stop right next to him. The animal was breathing hard, covered in sweat, its eyes wild with fear, and something else, something that looked like purpose. The other rider did not move. He was completely still. "Help," a voice said. Thomas looked to his left, and there, walking out of the darkness, was a woman. She was young, maybe 20 years old, with long dark hair that was tangled and full of dust. Her dress was torn. Her face was covered with blood and dirt. She was holding her side like she was hurt. But she was moving, and she was alive. "Please," the woman said, "please help him. He saved my life. He saved my life, and now he is dying." Thomas wanted to say that he could not help anyone. He wanted to say that his leg was broken, that he could barely help himself. He wanted to tell her to ride away, to find the town, to get help from someone stronger than him. But he did not say any of those things. Instead, Thomas pulled himself up. He used his hands to pull his body across the ground. He got to Clay, and he reached up. With all his strength, he grabbed the injured man and pulled him down slowly, trying not to hurt him more. The man was heavy. The man was bleeding. The man smelled like sweat and fear and death. But Thomas pulled him down anyway, and the man fell gently onto the sand next to Thomas's broken body.
Thomas looked at the injured man lying on the ground next to him. The man was breathing, but just barely. His breathing was shallow and weak, like a small animal caught in a trap. Blood was coming from a hole in his shoulder, and more blood was on his chest. His face was pale, almost white, like all the color had been drained out of him. "What is your name?" Thomas asked the man. The man did not answer. His eyes were closed. His body was still. "He is named James," the woman said quickly. "His name is James, and he's a good man. He is a good man, and he is dying, and we have to help him." Thomas looked at the woman. She was standing above them, holding her side, tears running down her dirty face. She looked like she might fall down at any moment. "Sit down," Thomas said, "before you fall down." The woman sat down next to them, hard, like her legs could not hold her anymore. She was shaking. Her whole body was shaking, like she was cold, even though the desert was still warm. "I am sorry," she said. "I am sorry that I brought him here. I did not know what else to do. Clay, your horse, he brought us here because I asked him to. I did not know if anyone would be alive, but Clay knew. Horses know things. Clay knew that there was someone here." Thomas did not understand how a horse could know anything like that, but he also did not argue. He was starting to understand that the world was stranger than he had always believed. "What is your name?" Thomas asked the woman. "Sarah," she said. "My name is Sarah Whitmore. My father owns a ranch about 5 miles from here. We were riding home when the bandits came. There were 3 of them. They came out of nowhere. They had guns, and they were angry, and they wanted to take me." Sarah stopped talking. She was looking at James, the injured man. Her eyes were full of love and sadness, mixed together in a way that made Thomas understand something important. This woman loved this man. This woman would have done anything to save his life. "James was working for my father," Sarah continued. "He was just a worker. He was not supposed to fight for me. But he did. He got his horse, not your Clay, a different horse, and he rode at the bandits. He was so brave. He was fighting them, and one of them shot him. They shot him right in the shoulder, and he fell, and his horse ran away." "What happened then?" Thomas asked. "I was screaming," Sarah said. "I was screaming, and James was on the ground bleeding, and the bandits were laughing. But then Clay came. Your horse, Clay, came running out of nowhere. He came running so fast, and he knocked one of the bandits down. The man fell, and his gun fell, and he did not get up for a long time." Sarah's voice was getting stronger now. She was remembering, and as she remembered, she was finding her strength again. "The other bandits were scared," Sarah said. "Horses can be dangerous when they want to be." Clay was kicking and running, and the men could not control their own horses. One of them tried to shoot Clay, but he missed, and then they ran away. They just left. They did not want to fight a wild horse. Thomas looked at Clay. The horse was standing a little distance away, drinking from a small pool of water that was hidden in the sand. The horse looked calm now, but Thomas could see that the animal's legs were shaking. Clay was tired. Clay was hurt, probably. "After they left," Sarah continued, "I did not know what to do. James was bleeding so much. I tried to stop the bleeding with my dress, but there was so much blood, and he was saying strange things. He was saying that he could not move. He was saying that his body would not listen to him." Thomas understood that feeling. His body would not listen to him either. His broken leg was like a dead thing attached to his living body. "I put him on Clay's back," Sarah said. "I did not think Clay would let me, but he did. Clay just stood there and let me put James on his back. And then I asked Clay to take me to help. I did not know where help was, but I asked him anyway. And Clay started running. He ran, and he brought us here." Thomas was quiet for a long moment. He was thinking about all the things Sarah had told him. He was thinking about a horse that had helped a hurt man. He was thinking about a woman who loved a man so much that she risked everything to save him. He was thinking about how the world was full of strange and beautiful things. "We have to stop the bleeding," Thomas said finally. "If we do not stop the bleeding, James will die." "How?" Sarah asked. "How can we stop the bleeding? We do not have medicine. We do not have bandages. We do not even have water." Thomas looked around. The desert was dark now. The stars were coming out above them, more stars than he had ever seen before. The world looked very big and very empty and very lonely. But he was not alone. There were 2 other people here and a horse, and they were all alive. "Clay knows where water is," Thomas said. "Horses always know. We need to get James to water. We need to clean his wound. We need to tear your dress and make bandages." "My dress." Sarah looked down at her already torn clothes. "It is the only thing we have," Thomas said. "We use it to stop the bleeding." Sarah nodded. Without complaining, without saying that she was cold or scared or hurt, she began tearing her dress into long strips of cloth. Thomas watched her work, and he realized something important. This woman was strong. She was stronger than she looked. "After we help James," Sarah said quietly, "what happens to us? You have a broken leg. I am hurt. James is dying. We are all broken. We cannot help each other." Thomas looked at the injured man. He looked at the brave woman. He looked at the horse that had saved them both. "We will help each other," Thomas said, "because that is what broken people do. We help each other because we understand pain. We understand what it is like to be hurt. And maybe that is enough." The night was cold. Thomas had never felt cold like this before. Even though the desert was hot during the day, when the sun went down, the temperature dropped fast. Within 2 hours, Thomas was shaking. Within 3 hours, Sarah was holding herself tight, trying to keep warm. Only James did not seem to feel the cold. James was burning up with fever. "We need fire," Thomas said. "We need to keep him warm, but we also need to keep him cool. I do not understand it, but the fever is burning him from inside. We need to cool him down, but we also need warmth around him." Sarah did not ask how Thomas knew these things. She just nodded and started looking for wood. The desert did not have many trees, but there were bushes, dry, old bushes that had been dead for years. She gathered as many as she could carry in her arms. When she came back, Thomas used his knife to cut the wood into smaller pieces. Making fire without matches was hard. Thomas tried using 2 rocks, but they did not make sparks. He tried using a stick and another stick, rubbing them together fast, but his hands were too weak and his leg hurt too much to concentrate. After an hour of trying, Thomas felt like giving up. "Let me try," Sarah said. She took the sticks and started rubbing them together. Her hands were strong from working on a ranch. She rubbed, and her face turned red from effort. Sweat came down her forehead. She did not stop. She kept rubbing, and Thomas watched her, amazed at how much strength this young woman had inside her. Finally, a small spark came, then smoke, then a tiny flame. Sarah carefully fed the flame with the smallest pieces of wood. The fire grew slowly, then faster. Soon they had a real fire, not big, but real. The warmth felt like a miracle. "Thank you," Thomas said. Sarah did not answer. She was looking at James. James was sleeping, but it was not a peaceful sleep. His body was moving, his hands were moving, and sometimes he was saying words that did not make sense. He was calling out names. He was talking about things that had happened to him. He was living through bad memories while he slept. "He is having nightmares," Sarah said softly. "Even in sleep, his mind is not at peace." Thomas understood something about that. Since the accident, since Emma died, Thomas had been having nightmares too. Sometimes he would wake up screaming. Sometimes he would wake up crying. Sleep was not a time of rest for Thomas. It was a time when his pain came alive in his dreams. "We are all broken," Thomas said. "We all have pain inside us. But we are still here. We are still alive." They spent the night sitting by the fire, taking turns watching James. When it was Sarah's turn to rest, she fell asleep with her back against a rock, her face looking younger and more peaceful than it did when she was awake. When it was Thomas's turn to rest, he could not sleep. His leg was hurting too much. Instead, he sat and watched the fire, and he thought about his sister Emma. Emma had been kind. Emma had loved horses the way Thomas loved them. Emma had believed that the world was good, even when the world had showed her it was not. And then she died, and Thomas had believed that goodness died with her. But now, sitting here with a woman he had just met and a man he did not know, Thomas was starting to believe in goodness again. When the sun came up, James was still alive. This was important. James had been shot, and he had lost a lot of blood, and he had a fever all night. Thomas had believed that James would die. Most people would have died with wounds like that. But James was still breathing. James was still fighting. "We have to get him to a doctor," Sarah said. "He will die if we do not get him to a doctor." "How?" Thomas asked. "I cannot walk. You are hurt. James cannot move. We do not have horses. Clay is a good horse, but one horse cannot carry all 3 of us, and someone has to stay here." Sarah was quiet. She was thinking. Thomas could see her mind working, trying to find a solution to a problem that seemed impossible. "The town," Sarah said finally. "My father's ranch is closer, but the ranch is too far. But the town, Dust Creek, is not so far. If you can ride Clay, you can get to town and bring back help." "I cannot ride," Thomas said. "My leg is broken." "You have to try," Sarah said. Her voice was hard now, not soft like before. "James will die if you do not try. And if James dies, I will never forgive myself. I will never forgive myself because I know that you could have saved him and you did not try." Thomas looked at this young woman, and he saw her strength. He saw her love. He saw her determination, and he understood that she was right. "Help me up," Thomas said. Getting to his feet was the hardest thing Thomas had ever done. Every movement sent pain through his broken leg. He wanted to scream. He wanted to cry. He wanted to give up. But he kept thinking about James, who had fought 3 bandits to save Sarah's life. He kept thinking about Emma, who had believed in him even after he stopped believing in himself. Thomas stood up. His leg was shaking. His whole body was shaking. But he was standing. Sarah brought Clay. The horse came close to Thomas, like the animal understood what was happening. Like the horse knew that Thomas was hurt, but that Thomas needed help. "I do not know if I can ride," Thomas said. "You can," Sarah said. "You have to. Clay will help you." Thomas put his hand on Clay's neck. The horse was warm. The horse was real. The horse was alive, just like Thomas was alive. Together, they could do this. Thomas pulled himself up onto Clay's back. Pain shot through his leg, but he did not fall. He stayed on the horse. "Go to town," Sarah said. "Tell them about us. Tell them about James. Tell them to come with medicine and water and help." "Can you do that?" Thomas looked down at this girl, because she was a girl really not much older than Emma would have been if she were still alive. He looked at her, and he nodded. "I will come back," Thomas said. "I promise." "I know you will," Sarah said, "because James is not the only one who understands about fighting for people you care about. You understand it too." Clay started moving. Thomas held on tight, and the horse began to run. The desert was passing under him, the same desert that had broken him yesterday. But today, Thomas was not broken. Today, Thomas had a purpose. Today, Thomas was riding to save a life. And that made all the difference. 3 weeks had passed. James was sitting up now. His shoulder was still bandaged, but the fever had broken, and the color was coming back to his face. He was eating the food that Margaret cooked, and he was smiling sometimes. Thomas's leg was healing too. The doctor from town had come and said that with time and rest, Thomas would walk again. The pain was still bad, but it was getting smaller every day. Sarah sat next to James every evening. She would hold his hand, and they would talk about the future. They talked about what would happen when James was healthy again. They talked about getting married. They talked about leaving the ranch and starting a new life somewhere that was quiet and peaceful. Thomas watched them together, and he thought about Emma. He thought about how Emma would never get to have a future. Emma would never get to fall in love. Emma would never get to have a wedding or a home or children of her own. But watching Sarah and James, Thomas understood something important. He understood that life was for the living, not for the dead. He understood that honoring Emma's memory did not mean dying with her. It meant living fully because she could not. One evening, Rose came to sit with Thomas on the porch. Samuel was inside, teaching James how to play cards, something Samuel had not done in 30 years, something he had forgotten how to enjoy. But now, with his daughter in the house, Samuel was remembering how to live again. "I want to tell you something," Rose said to Thomas. "I want to tell you why I came here, to this place at this time." Thomas listened. He had learned that people's stories were important. People's stories held the truth about who they were. "My mother was a woman named Catherine," Rose began. "She was beautiful, and she was kind, and she loved my father very much. But my father, Samuel, he was not ready to love her back. He was broken from something that had happened to him. He would not tell her what had hurt him so much. He would just sit and be sad, and my mother could not help him." Rose was looking out at the desert, at the long road that led away from the ranch. "My mother left him," Rose continued. "She took me and left. She wanted to save herself. She wanted to give me a chance to grow up in a house that was not full of sadness. And for many years, I was angry at both of them. I was angry at my father for being broken, and I was angry at my mother for leaving. What changed? Thomas asked. My mother told me the truth before she died, Rose said. She told me that my father had lost someone. She told me that he had a sister, and his sister died because he could not save her. And my mother said that my father was waiting for a chance to save someone, to prove that he was not a failure, to prove that he could protect the people he loved. Thomas felt something move inside his chest. He felt a connection to this story, because this story was also his story. What was his sister's name? Thomas asked, even though he already knew the answer. Emma, Rose said. Her name was Emma. She was very young when she died. She was riding, and she fell, and my father could not save her. And for 30 years, he has been carrying that sadness like a heavy stone in his heart. Thomas was crying now. He did not know why he was crying, but he could not stop. How did you know? Thomas asked. How did you know to tell me this? Because, Rose said gently, when I was traveling to find my father, I stopped in a town called Miller's Crossing. I was asking people about Samuel Wright, an old woman there. She was the town doctor's wife. She told me about a young man named Thomas Miller. She told me that this young man had lost his sister many years ago, and that he had stopped riding horses because of his grief. Thomas could not breathe. That woman, Rose continued, she told me that Thomas Miller had a sister named Emma, and that Emma had died in an accident. And I knew right then that I had to find you, because I knew that you were carrying the same pain that my father was carrying. And I knew that maybe you too could help each other. I do not understand, Thomas said. Why would you do that? You did not know me. Because, Rose said, my mother told me something very important. She told me that broken people can heal broken people. She told me that the only way to stop carrying sadness is to share it with someone else. She told me that my father had been waiting for 30 years, not just for me, but for someone who understood what he was feeling. Thomas looked at this woman, and he understood. He understood that he had not come to this ranch by accident. He understood that the dust storm, the broken leg, Sarah and James, all of it had happened because he was supposed to meet Samuel. My father has been waiting to save someone, Rose said. And you have been waiting for someone to understand your pain. And now you are here together. And maybe together you can both heal. That night, Thomas went to find Samuel. The old man was sitting on the porch, looking at the stars. Rose told me, Thomas said. She told me about your sister Emma. Samuel did not look at Thomas. He just kept looking at the stars. I had a sister named Emma too, Thomas continued. She died because I could not save her. I have been running from that pain for 7 years. I stopped riding horses. I stopped living. I just stopped. Samuel was quiet for a very long time. I am sorry, Samuel said finally. I'm sorry that you know this pain. No one should know this pain. But we both know it, Thomas said. We both carry it. And maybe we do not have to carry it alone anymore. Samuel looked at Thomas for the first time, and in the old man's eyes, Thomas saw his own pain reflected back at him. He saw understanding. He saw acceptance. My daughter was right, Samuel said. She's always right. Broken people can heal broken people. We know the shape of the wounds. We know what it feels like to bleed. Samuel reached out his hand, just like he had reached out to Rose 3 weeks before. And Thomas took his hand. 2 men, separated by years and by different paths, holding hands under the stars, finally understanding that their pain was not their fault and that healing could come from the most unexpected places. Inside the house, Sarah and James were talking about their wedding. Margaret was making bread for tomorrow. Rose was writing letters to people she had known before she came to this ranch. And outside, under the infinite sky, 2 broken men were learning how to live again. Because sometimes healing does not come from forgetting. Sometimes healing comes from finally being understood by someone who knows exactly what it feels like to be broken. And that understanding is worth more than gold. 1 year had passed. The ranch looked different now. The fields were green. The fences were fixed. There were animals again, horses and cattle and chickens. The house that had been full of sadness was now full of life and laughter and the sound of people who had learned how to be happy. Thomas was standing in the field, holding the reins of a horse. His leg was strong now. He could walk without pain. He could ride without fear. He had started teaching people how to ride again. People from the town who wanted to learn, children who were curious about horses, broken people who needed to find their way back to life. The horse he was holding was young and nervous. It was a horse that nobody else wanted to ride because the animal had been hurt before. But Thomas understood hurt animals. He understood broken things. "Come on, boy," Thomas whispered to the horse. "I know you were scared. I'm scared too, but we can do this together." The horse slowly started to trust Thomas. The animal moved closer, pressed its head against Thomas's chest, and Thomas felt something that he had not felt in 7 years. He felt like he was doing something that mattered. He felt like his life had purpose again. Sarah walked out of the house, carrying a baby. The baby was only 3 months old, and she was beautiful. Her name was Emma, named after Thomas's sister. When Thomas and Sarah had talked about the name, Thomas had cried, but they were different tears now. They were tears of healing, not tears of pain. "She is sleeping," Sarah said softly, showing Thomas the tiny child. "She sleeps so much. James says she has his eyes, but I think she has your kindness." Thomas smiled. He had never thought he would smile again. Not like this, not from the heart. James came out next, walking strong and healthy. His shoulder was completely healed now. He was working with Samuel, learning how to manage the ranch. James had discovered that he loved this work, the work of taking care of land and animals and family. "Thomas," James called out, "come see what we did. Samuel taught me how to build a new barn. It is stronger than the old one. It will last for many years." Thomas brought the young horse and walked with James to where they had been building. Samuel was there, working with his hands, his old body still strong. Rose was there too, measuring wood and organizing the tools. The new barn was beautiful. It was made of strong, new wood. It had big windows so light could come inside. It had places for horses to sleep, places to store food, places to work. It was a barn that would protect animals and people for generations to come. "It is perfect," Thomas said. "You know what is perfect?" Samuel said, looking at all of them. "This, right here. All of us, working together, building something that will last." A year ago, I was sitting alone on a porch, waiting for something I thought would never come. And now, I have everything I ever wanted. Samuel put his arm around Rose. Rose put her arm around her father. And for the first time in 30 years, Samuel was not waiting anymore. He was living. That evening, they all sat together on the porch, Thomas, James, Sarah, Samuel, Rose, and Margaret. The baby was sleeping in Sarah's arms. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange and red and gold. "I want to tell you something," Thomas said. "I want to tell you all something." Everyone looked at him. 1 year ago, Thomas continued, "I was a man who wanted to die. I was running from pain. I thought that the only way to stop hurting was to stop living. I thought that my sister's death meant that I had to die too, not with my body, but with my spirit. I thought I had to stop loving, stop hoping, stop trying." Thomas paused. He was looking at the sky, remembering the person he used to be. But then, Thomas said, there was a dust storm, and I fell, and I thought I was going to die alone in the desert. And then Sarah came with clay, and James came, and I realized that I was not alone. I realized that broken people could find each other, and together they could become strong. Sarah was crying now, happy tears. "I learned something," Thomas continued. "I learned that honoring the people we have lost does not mean dying with them. It means living fully because they cannot. It means taking the love we had for them and using it to love other people. It means building something beautiful in their memory." Thomas looked at the baby sleeping in Sarah's arms. "That baby," Thomas said, "is named after my sister. Every time I see her, I remember Emma, but I do not remember sadness. I remember that Emma believed in me. I remember that Emma would want me to be happy. I remember that Emma would want me to help other broken people find their way to healing." James put his hand on Thomas's shoulder. "You saved my life," James said. "When I was bleeding in the desert, you did not give up. You rode through pain, and you brought help. You are a hero." "No," Thomas said. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who was broken, and I met other broken people, and together we became whole." Samuel stood up slowly. His old body was tired, but his spirit was strong. "I have something to say," Samuel said. "For 30 years, I was waiting for my daughter. I thought that if I could just see her once, if I could just hold her once, then all my pain would go away. But I was wrong. My pain did not go away when Rose came. My pain went away when I started living again, when I started helping people, when I started building things and growing things and loving people who were still alive." Samuel looked at all of them. "I want to make this ranch into something special," Samuel continued. "I want to make it a place where broken people can come to heal. I want to teach people how to ride horses like Thomas is teaching. I want to show people that no matter how broken you are, no matter how much pain you carry, you can become whole again. You can learn to love again. You can learn to live again. We will all help," Margaret said. "We will all work together to make this place into something beautiful." That night, the town had a celebration. People came from all around: the doctor, the shopkeeper, the school teacher, families with children. They brought food and music and happiness. They celebrated Thomas and James and Sarah's baby. They celebrated Samuel finding his daughter. They celebrated the new barn, the new ranch, the new hope that had come to this place. And as the music played and people danced, Thomas stood in the darkness, away from the light, and he thought about his sister Emma. "I am happy," Thomas whispered to the stars. "I am happy, Emma, and I know you would be happy too. I know you are watching, and I know you are proud. Thank you for teaching me how to love. Thank you for believing in me when I stopped believing in myself." The stars seemed to shine brighter. The next morning, people started coming to the ranch. People who had heard the story of broken people who had healed each other. People who were carrying pain and sadness and loss. People who wanted to learn how to ride horses again. People who wanted to feel alive again. Thomas taught them. Samuel taught them. James taught them. And slowly, the ranch became known throughout the land as a place of healing, a place where broken people could become whole. The legend spread far and wide, whispered on dusty roads and told in saloons under stars. There's a ranch where broken people go. There's a place where pain becomes wisdom. There's a man named Thomas who teaches that loyalty never dies, that bonds can heal even the deepest wounds, that shared suffering becomes shared strength. And it was all true, because sometimes the greatest miracles are not the ones that happen to one person. The greatest miracles are the ones that happen when broken people find each other, and together they build something beautiful. Together they build hope. Together they build healing. Together they build a legacy that will last forever.